Karl-Anthony with the pump fake and one dribble inside to the long two, and he makes it. That's been his game his whole career. But look at him smiling. We go, my bad. The long two.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Long Two. I am Pete Rogers. He is Natty Wallach, and we are the least efficient fantasy basketball podcast you'll ever hear, but we get the job done. Basketball is back. We are feeling great. Natty, how are you doing?
I'm doing so well, man. We actually have numbers to play with.
It's amazing. No longer is it just speculation and conjecture. It's facts.
Right. Let's not do predictions. Let's just talk about the start of maybe patterns.
Exactly. Totally different. That's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Those are definitely not the same thing. With the NBA season just starting, we figured it would make a lot of sense to go over. We're literally through the first week of the NBA, and we know this for a fact because last week's show was recorded on the first day of the NBA. Let's talk some biggest surprises from the first week of the NBA. And I think we have to start, even though he just got injured, of course, as we're starting to get to record this, but we have to start talking about MVP Trae Young, who has started the season just shooting the absolute lights out.
Okay, Trae Young. So they've beaten the Pistons and the Magic, not great scoring teams, and they almost beat Philly, which is very impressive. He just looks absolutely fantastic. He is not going to maintain any of the numbers he has right now.
You mean he's not going to keep shooting 52% from downtown, with like half of those being shots from the logo?
Like, what if he did?
Jesus.
What if we're
just about to watch the greatest fucking 3-point shooting performance of all time, where Trae Young hits 50% of his shots and half of them are from the logo?
I would like to say something to that. I don't think it's crazy to say that he might get easier shots from farther away because there isn't a defender in his face.
That's
if
fair.
These dudes are strong enough and their stroke is sick enough that they can literally shoot like 40% from the logo or from half court, like in practice, then like why, if you think you have a pretty good open shot, even if you're far away. Yeah.
Dame Lillard did that in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I think these guys are realizing just how strong they really are, and it's a little bit analogous to launch angle in baseball, where like all these baseball guys are like, oh shit, well, I'm really strong, and if I just hit it a little bit, down and up, then I'll get way more home runs. And it's true.
Exactly.
Like if you can shoot from fucking 40 feet away, then do it.
Yeah. Even though we at the Long Two highly encourage you not to do that. We encourage you to only shoot roughly between 15 and 18 feet from the basket.
But that's the thing. Like let's assume that this actually does continue to happen. And it's not just Trae, it's other dudes too. Like, that's going to stretch defenses to the point where you sort of have to always play full court defense.
Right.
So that's if that's the next iteration of the NBA, where it's just man on man, no matter where you are on the court, then that's going to change a lot of things.
That's going to be exciting. But yeah, so speaking more about Trae Young, he's through 3 games, averaging 34 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, and a steal, which is just, those numbers are just preposterous. And like I said, shooting 52% from downtown, which is just out of this world. He's been, I think, the story of the season so far, just in the fact that we've always, we expected him and we expected Luka and we expected, those rookies from last year who made a name for themselves, Donovan Mitchell, to take a step forward. But I don't think anyone saw Trae Young taking this big of a step where he suddenly is now one of the best, if not the best, deep shooter in the league and is channeling that Steph Curry, hotness from downtown and is carrying this team. Like you said, the Hawks were almost sitting at 3-0 after beating the Sixers, but they just lost that game. He's been carrying this young Atlanta team that can be really saucy this season. So I think if we're talking biggest surprises from the NBA season so far, his start to the season has to highlight the list for me. But obviously there are other things to talk about. Natty, what's one of the biggest surprises for you so far this year?
Just one more thing for Trae Young. If you were going to try to design a team that would hinder him defensively, you'd come up with the 76ers. You know, like they're huge.
Right. Just
athletic.
Have massive size on the perimeter.
Yeah. And they lost by 2. So that's a pretty good sign, I think. Like the Hawks might be a playoff team. My God.
Hawks might be good.
So
hopefully this ankle injury isn't anything bad. Trae Young, if we could, we would donate our ankles to you.
Knock wood for sure.
Yeah. Be healthy.
Okay. So I had 4 things that surprised me, and then one of them blew all the rest out of the water.
Perfect.
And because it's almost Halloween, it's also spooky to me. This
Ooh,
stat.
Look at you!
Yes.
Look at you tying in the coming holiday.
Big deal.
God damn! This is why you should get paid the big bucks.
I mean, I get a lot of money. Do you not?
Oh shit! Oh, this is so awkward. I thought I hosted this show, and yet somehow, wow! I need to talk to my manager.
I take it back. Anyway, I think this stat is like really unsettling. The Lakers are dead last in drives per game. And this is before any of the games occurred on Tuesday night. They're 29.7 drives per game. You can look these stats up on NBA.com. It's one of their tracking stats. They're pretty cool. The reason this is so weird to me is that the Suns are the second lowest in drives per game, but they're at 35. Like the Lakers with LeBron James and Anthony Davis are driving to the basket 6 fewer times than the Suns.
It's not good.
I don't know if that's just a function of like who they played or if that's like on purpose. I mean, I think it's a lot of post ups for AD. But I don't know, man. Well, like when you're under 30 and everyone else in the league is over 35, I just thought that was really surprising, and I wondered what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I mean I wonder if that's something though that I think it might be a matchup thing more so than anything, like you talked about, and it's still these players getting used to playing with each other and maybe more running sets as opposed to just being like, hey, we're just going to attack the hoop and see what happens. It might be more of a, let's get AD set up in the post. Let's feed him the ball. We'll give AD his play, and then we'll give LeBron his play, and then we'll kind of go back and forth like that, as opposed to, I mean, I have to think that, any team with LeBron, since his bread and butter is driving to the hoop, you're going to get that drive rate up. Now, this also can be a credit to the fact that outside of LeBron and AD, like, who's their best player? Dwight has been playing really well as a role player, but he's not driving to the hoop. KCP is going to be hanging out on the perimeter, just shooting threes when he gets the chance. So, like, it could also be that this team never really drives to the hoop because they really only have 2 guys who can drive to the hoop, and that's about it.
It's just so strange to me because those guys, like, it's a ton of pick and rolls, and I think it's just a lot of post ups and a lot of maybe mid range shots, like after a pick and roll, like.
You know what this team could use,
though?
And
Danny Green shooting threes,
right?
By the way.
Right. You know what this team could use, though? And
What's that?
I wish they had a guy like this on their roster, a guy like Brandon Ingram.
Boy, doesn't that transition well?
Don't you think that would be just a really good player in this Lakers offense?
He's pretty good when he's scoring 27 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, 4 assists, 1 block, 50% field goal percentage, and 3+ three-pointers made. By the way, there are only 10 guys who are averaging 20 shots per game. Those 10 guys are Luka, Cat, Karl-Anthony Towns, Jason Tatum, James Harden, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Trae Young, Dame Lillard, Bradley Beal, and Kyrie is at the top with 26, which is absolutely hysterical.
Oh, Kyrie.
Like, he's playing like he's one of the premier guys in the NBA, and until Zion comes back, I have absolutely no reason to think that will change.
I have to let our listeners know that I knew ahead of time that Brandon Ingram was one of Natty's biggest surprises of the start of the season, and so this wasn't just like a trick of a magical coincidence. I perfectly structured that transition, and I would like the credit that I deserve for doing that. But you're
so
right.
many people just turned off the pod.
I know,
they're
like,
they're like,
fuck.
"What? Wait, what? That wasn't organic? Are you
this
kidding?
Is planned? This is all scripted?
Yeah.
What the fuck? I'm not listening to this show anymore." Yeah, no, he's been phenomenal for the Pelicans, and with Zion down, and has stepped right into that role. And it has to make you kind of think. And there's another guy who's not a surprise, but since we're talking about the Pelicans, I want to quickly touch on him. But this has to make you wonder. Maybe the Lakers don't know how to develop young talent, because we saw D'Angelo Russell do nothing there and then go to Brooklyn and suddenly become an all-star. And now we're seeing Brandon Ingram, who kind of toiled away in LA for a while now, go to New Orleans, and all of a sudden, and you can't say it's like, well, now he's been given the opportunity. He had plenty of opportunity last year when LeBron was injured to do all of the exact same things, but now he's seemingly somehow, without the pressure of LA on him, he's everything's coming together. And maybe it just takes time. Like, it does take time for these people. They come into we talked about this on the show before. They come into the league at 20 years old, 19 years old. They're kids, and they're like still figuring out how their body works, especially a guy like Brandon Ingram. But no, it's great to see everything click for him. And I love watching him play, because I think he's the closest thing, and I'm not at all I'm purely comparing body types. He's the closest thing we'll ever see to Kevin Durant again, where he's just like this string bean, and you're like, how are you like this athletic and this able to throw guys around with the fact that you weigh what looks like 100 pounds?
Yeah, I read something that said that he weighs less than like Steve Nash did.
just it's preposterous.
But here's the thing about Brandon Ingram, and to your point about the Lakers have not had a coach or a front office focused on development of young players since, I don't know, before I was born.
Yeah.
Like, before Kareem. There's like, they haven't gone to the playoffs because reasons X, Y, and Z, and they begin with Kobe and then end with mismanagement and like hoping for LeBron.
And more
and
Kobe.
Who knows how many years out that actually was real. Like, there's never been a time in recent history where the Lakers weren't trying to be a team that could attract veterans. And I think, in my humble opinion, that you need veteran coaches to do that. And dudes that just like don't develop young, like, who's the best young talent Mike D'Antoni ever?
Right.
Yeah, like, it just doesn't seem like they focus on that too much, because they're always trying to get free agents and they're always trying to trade for a star.
Yeah.
And that's totally cool. That's their MO. Like, that's a lot of teams' MOs. They're much better at it than the fucking Knicks are. But so I think that's sort of a function of a plan, sort of, even though I don't agree with it. I don't think they care that much about young player. I mean, they say
right. But it's clearly not a priority for them.
Yeah, because they're hoping to trade them for guys like
Right.
Anthony Davis, and I guess that sort of worked out. But like, on fake teams, we've talked about Brandon for a while. Like, ever since he came into the league, just like you said, he looks like Kevin Durant. And it's not just because of his body type; it's because of his stroke, and it's not as good as KD. Like, he doesn't look anything like KD when you get down into the numbers. But that's just right now. Yeah. He's taking so many shots on the goddamn Pelicans. Like, it's his team right now. It's especially because Drew Holiday hasn't been playing well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that he's been a surprise for me. Not one of my biggest, but he's on my fantasy team. And the fact that he's shooting 11% from downtown has not been great.
Yeah. But you also know that will improve. Totally. So, if you're in another league where someone's like, this guy sucks, then obviously trade whatever you can for him. I've thought that he looks like a player that could develop into an MVP. Some of that will depend on his defense. But the fact that Zion is out means that Brandon Ingram is the best player on this team until Drew Holiday gets out of this slump.
Yeah. My second big surprise from the first week of basketball is that the Suns are good. Which is not anyone thought they would be saying. They're 2-2, but it's been a tough 2-2. They dismantled the Kings to start the season, who are already back to being a dumpster fire after flirting with NBA relevance last year.
Injuries.
Yeah, sure. That's what they'll say. Lost to the Nuggets by 1 in overtime, beat the Clippers by 8, and then lost to the Jazz on Monday night by 1. And they play the Warriors on Wednesday, and spoiler alert, the Warriors are one of my other biggest surprises from the first week. But you'd almost have to consider them favorites going against the Warriors. Just how bad.
My God,
they've looked real not good, and the Suns have looked real good. Booker is Booker. Kelly Oubre has been off to a hot start for both the Suns and my fantasy team,
trying on defense.
And somehow the Kaminsky and Saric front court has actually been working with DeAndre Ayton being suspended. This team is fun. I'm here for it. I'm here for the Phoenix Suns to like work their way out of the shithole and now become like an actual team that's not going to make the playoffs, but are frisky and like are there to make a game out of any game they play in.
I am so skeptical. I really don't believe this at all. Like, okay, so they beat the Kings, who, as you said, are garbaggio. They beat the Clippers after the Clippers beat the Lakers and the Warriors, and like maybe there's a little bit of a come down. They lost to Denver by like that was a good game. That was absolutely a cool game. And then Utah, they sort of played a Utah game where you don't score 100 points, and it's not that it's boring. It's just that it's taken a while.
That's fine. I think that the influx of veterans, like this is, I think that the Suns are a great example. And yes, I don't think, like I said, they're not a playoff team all of a sudden. And maybe they'll still only win whatever. I mean, 20 games, but the influx of veterans meshed with this young core, like you're starting to see some things. The things are trending in the right direction, which is a huge step for Phoenix.
I agree with that completely. I think Rubio is primed to have an incredible fantasy year.
Yes. Ricky Rubio, 82% owned last time I checked in ESPN leagues. Yeah. He is already top 5 in steals and assists. So yeah,
he's going to end the year in the 90s for sure.
Yeah.
He's still young, and I like Oubre a lot. Like, the team fits more than it has in a while. It sucks that Ayton is out. And I mean, for a diuret, whatever. I don't believe in Frank the Tank, really. Dario Saric is an interesting player. Like, if he establishes himself in this offense, he could stick. And that's a guy that you might want to look at on waivers. Booker is an exceptional talent, and he now has a real point guard.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have to be the guy worried about distributing the ball and making sure that the rest of the team is functioning well. He gets to be the star. And I do think that it's good for proto stars to have that kind of experience for a year. Like Victor Oladipo in Orlando. He had to be the point guard for a year before he got traded, and was like that. And then he had to work off the ball with Russell Westbrook, and then he was a star in Indiana.
I totally forgot that Victor Oladipo started in Orlando.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy that a guy that good is on his third team, and he's not even 27. Like,
Jesus.
That's nuts. But anyway, like, all experience is good experience, and Devin Booker has had a bunch of experience playing without a good center and without a good point guard. And now he has both as soon as Ayton gets back. And if he also has a couple of wings around him that aren't, complete dumpsters, then I mean, shit. Like, I think Rubio, and Ayton, when he comes back, are just going to be exceptional this year. But I do not believe in the Phoenix Suns record, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's super fair. No, that all makes sense. What's another big surprise for you coming out of week 1?
Okay, Minnesota. It has to be said. This man's Timberwolves are 3-0. Again, this is before only a couple of games are happening Tuesday night. Anyway, they're 3-0. They have a plus 10 point differential, which is pretty fucking good. Big Cat is averaging 32, 13, and 5 with 5 3-pointers made, 3 steals per game, and 2 blocks per game.
Karl-Anthony Towns has just decided to be the fucking MVP and hold on to it for the entire year.
My man, what if he does?
I don't
What
see why he
if
couldn't.
Minnesota is a playoff game? What's going to happen?
This is literally the shit that we've been saying about Minnesota, where it's just like, hey, Cat, this is your team. Do it. And let's have the offense, like, make Cat be the focal point of the offense. I'm glad Jimmy Butler fought his way out of there. And now suddenly Cat's making Andrew Wiggins a productive player. Like, give me all of this Minnesota's team. Give me all of it.
So, red flag on the coaching. You can't let Wiggins take that many shots late in the game. But anyway, Wiggins is averaging 20 and 6, 43 field goal percentage. Yuck. But it's Wiggins. And if he's doing that all year, then he's going to be a productive player. If you can buy him cheap from somebody, you might want to look into it. Also, they've beaten the Heat without Jimmy Butler. They've beaten the Hornets and they've beaten the Nets. That's not the best resume I've ever seen in my life. And this might be more a function of Big Cat being the best player on the court for all 3 of these games for their record. But Minnesota looks like, when you have a player who's going to be on the MVP ballot, that means that you probably should be at least a playoff team. Maybe Minnesota's a playoff team, which would be one of the most surprising things of this season, even though Cat is, grown enough where it should be a reality every year going forward.
Yeah. No, and I think you might be right. Like, I think that my hype about Minnesota is less to do with their record and the fact that, that they maybe are a playoff team. It's more of the fact that we are now I believe that we are going to see Cat at his full powers this year. And that could be like, now it's suddenly becoming a much more exciting MVP race. And I know we're only a week into the season, but I'm all for giving me someone other than Harden or Giannis to be in the battle for most valuable player this year of the NBA. And I think Cat is 100% already thrown his hair. I mean, Trae Young's thrown his hat in the ring too, but like Cat can be that just everything player for both, your fantasy team, but for the Wolves. And they're finally seemingly giving him that opportunity to be like, hey, you want to facilitate? Hey, you want to be a spot up 3-point shooter and shoot 5 threes a game? Do that too.
He is averaging 32 points per game. He is 23 years old. Trae Young is 21 and is averaging 34 points per game. And Kyrie Irving is 27, averaging 37.7. Those guys are good. Karl-Anthony Towns is also 7 feet tall.
Oh my God, it's so sexy.
I like the fact that he's had to go through such a sad career so far, kind of in a way instills me with hope, because he's just going to be like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm better than all of it.
Right.
I am absolutely one of the most dominant forces in the NBA right now. And maybe this is that year.
Oh God, please let it be so. Who's not been good this season, and I touched on him when I was talking about the Suns, but I got to hit on him again. The Warriors, man. Lost big to the Clippers, were ran off the court by the Thunder. I guess, no one else has done anything outside of Steph. He's only shooting 26% from 3. He's averaging 24 a game. Russell and
shut your mouth. Glenn Robinson III had 9 rebounds the other night. Sorry. How dare you? Go blue.
My apologies. Russ and Draymond haven't, they've been fine, but I think this is hitting everyone, and it's showing us that I think we were a little too casual with what Klay Thompson does for this team, because they are sorely missing him both on defense and offense, but B, also in our trust in Steph and Draymond. And now last week we did our way too early playoff predictions, and now I'm feeling like maybe I should have had the Warriors not making the playoffs, because unless things change, and yes, we're only a weekend. We're overreacting to the first week, people. Welcome to the party. The Warriors are not looking like a playoff team right now.
Yeah, it's not that it's a small sample; it's that it's the only sample we
This
have.
is all we're working with. So if we're taking what we've seen and we're projecting it across an 82 game season, Warriors aren't making the playoffs.
DAR, sorry, I live in Brooklyn. D'Angelo Russell, his defense compared to Clay's is like a match to a son. It's just like, also he's on a new team.
Oh, sure,
And
yeah.
there's, the team is basically decimated. The way I feel about the Warriors is, so they won their last game by going small.
Mm-hmm.
Did they go small because they had to, or because they had to? And what I mean by that is, did they go small because they thought they could win with the new NBA small ball, or because all of their fucking centers are injured?
Well, and not really that good.
This is what we're talking about when we talk about small sample size. The Warriors don't have a center right now, really, that is fully healthy and that can actually help them win. So, of course, you put Draymond at center because he can do that. And while that does open things up for their shooters, it's like they beat New Orleans. New Orleans, even though we love them and we love Brandon Ingram, and we hope the Pelicans are a playoff team, they're 0-4.
Right.
Like, we didn't mention that when we were talking about Brandon Ingram. They haven't fucking won yet, guys.
But just imagine what Brandon Ingram will do when they win.
Yeah, he's such an MVP, aside from actually winning games.
Aside from actually, being the most valuable player.
Yeah. So the Warriors lost to the Clippers. Big fucking deal. Like, the Clippers look like Galactus.
That's going to be a normal occurrence for most teams in the NBA this season.
They were crushed by Oklahoma City, but I think that was a bad matchup. Like, Danilo Gallinari and Dennis Schroeder absolutely killed them. And I think that's because they don't have a big dude that can guard, like, power forwards that can stretch the court, like Danilo. Danilo's 6'10", I think. And Schroeder, who's on the Warriors bench? The bench is playing, or is starting rather. And then they beat New Orleans, which is a team that they should beat. I still think they're a playoff team. I still think they're really good. I think they have a bunch of dudes that weren't there last year, and so they're going to have to figure out how to move. And Draymond, is saying Draymond things like we're really shitty, but I sort of feel like, no shit, man. Like, who was here last year? Like, raise your hand. Who knows how to play in the Warriors system? It's Steph and Dre. I mean, I love GR3, but he just fucking got here. So I still believe in the Warriors. I just think this was a rough start.
Yeah, that's entirely fair. It's just, I'm not sure unless they drastically address their center or big man issue, or one of their big men gets healthy and is suddenly productive and can help, which is not something we've seen in the past. I just think that there are seemingly flaws on this roster that teams will and good teams can and will exploit. And there are so many good teams in the West that can and will exploit them. Are there really, 17? Like, are the Warriors really going to be the best of 7 teams in this division?
Sure.
We'll see in the conference.
I mean, one of the problems with playing Draymond at center a lot means that you can't actually space the floor the way that you want to, because now, like, you want Draymond to try to develop his outside shot this season because it was bad last season. So, like, let's get him confidence. Let's get him reps.
Yep.
I think I really like Willie Cauley-Stein, and it sucks that he's injured.
I do too.
Yeah, man.
I forget that he's on the Warriors.
He was just like sort of blocked in Sacramento.
Yeah.
But I like him a lot. I thought that was such a savvy move by Golden State. So hopefully he comes back soon. And if you have a young athletic center who can run the court, that really opens up the game for everybody else. And the Warriors don't have that right now.
All right. Before we go on, we're going to take a quick ad break. All right. What's another thing that's caught you by surprise to start the season?
Dude. Gilgeous Alexander, Shea he's so good. I can't believe how many minutes he's playing. So before the season started, give me
some numbers, Natty. Give me them numbers.
You know I got him, man. Number one in minutes per game on Oklahoma City so far this way. Number one. I thought he was going to be a backup guard. Like, I thought he was going to be coming off the bench. He's also number one in field goal attempts on the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is absolutely fucking nuts. And by the way, he's also number one in free throw attempts. So here's his line: 23 plus points per game, 1+ block per game so far, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 3-pointers made. He's 6'5". He's 21 years old. He's currently number 19 on ESPN's Player Rater. This motherfucker is so good at basketball, and I can't believe this. Oh God, if the Thunder and Jeremy Grant, Pete, just save me. I can't do this.
I know. Here, I'll come in for you. I'll come in and give my 2 cents. Yeah, no, he's been, and the thing is what's beautiful about this is a wonderful harmony of expectations meeting reality, right? Everyone said this. No one did not say this, in that if you knew basketball, everyone was like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to go into Oakland and is going to win every single one of those fans' hearts and become the centerpiece of that team, because that is just how talented he is. Like that, everyone knew this, and it's great to see that expectation be immediately met within the first week of basketball, where the team it's not only that he's playing to that level, it's the team also is like, yeah, this is our fucking guy. Like this is the centerpiece that we have to replace Russell Westbrook. We are going to give him the minutes. We are going to give him the opportunity. He is our focal point. Like, so half of the NBA roster, like, you can totally see a team being like, Chris Paul is an old all-star veteran, and we're going to give him the minutes he deserves, and we are going to make him the starting point guard. We're going to give him the respect that he deserves, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just going to have to wait his turn, and this is how the team works. Like, you can see that. So many teams would make that mistake, and so it's great to see a team like this be just like, no. This is the guy. This is the only real asset we have that's going to lead this team down in its future. We are going to give him all the opportunity that he needs to thrive and to succeed and to learn and to be that player. We just talked about this with Devin Booker, where it's like, give them all of the touches they need. They'll learn what works for them, what doesn't. And then you can start building a team around them and figuring out what holes do we need to fill. So not only has he just been phenomenal for anyone who's had him in fantasy to start the season, but he's also just been the expectations that everyone's had for him. He's meeting, and that's just wonderful to see.
Well, I would like to say that was a very good impression that you did.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of me, because I didn't fucking think he was going to be doing this. And I was like, yo, it's CP3, it's Danilo, and it's Steven Adams, and everybody else can go fuck themselves. This dude's only 21 years old. He's the biggest surprise to me, I think. He's so goddamn fucking good at basketball. And I think they're 1-3 right now. The Thunder are, but they have looked better than I think a lot of people thought they would. And if they begin to gel, then the Thunder are really going to have some pretty weird decisions to have to make. Like, it's tough to trade Chris Paul just because of the money.
Right.
And it's tough to trade Steven Adams because who needs a center and can afford him? What could you get for SGA?
Oh my God. You could get a lot.
Right.
But they already have so much. See, I would hope that they don't go that direction.
They do, but it's like, if you know that you can't trade Chris Paul,
sure,
and you can't trade Steven Adams, then I think that extends your window, and you're sort of thinking like, okay, well, maybe next year we really tank. And what, I have no idea what you could get for Gilgeous-Alexander, but I think it would be a lot.
Yeah, especially if you put him on full display.
Yeah. So I don't know. The Thunder have a lot of decisions to make this year, because also if they keep him, are they going to be buyers at the trade deadline? Like, if they're going to be that good, who knows?
Yeah. That'll be a fun team to watch. A player, my final surprise for the first week of basketball is another guy who meshes with this expectations meeting reality. And it's not everyone's expectations, it's my expectations, because I have been, let me just pat myself on the back here for a second. I have been on the Kristaps Porzingis trade for the beginning of this podcast. And you know what, Natty? He looks fucking great to start this year. He looks excellent from missing all of last year. He's 31 minutes, 26.3 points, 5.7 boards, 3.3 assists, 3 stocks, and shooting 41% from 3. I would think that they would have given him a minute cap to ease him back, but they haven't. He's literally averaging exactly the same career minutes he's averaged in New York, 31 minutes. The Mavs and the NBA are just a better place with a healthy Kristaps, and I am so excited that that everything, all of these expectations that and I'll speak only from myself, put upon him this year of him being healthy, him returning to greatness, him being part of this offense and making Luka and both of them and all the players around him better, that is happening through this first week of basketball. And I think many people this will catch them off guard, that Kristaps coming back from this injury, missing a full year of basketball, getting traded to a new team, reacclimating, getting back to the sport, rehabbing, all of this, that he has come out this season and has looked just as good and has shown no ill effect to what has happened to him and just looked just as good as he was in New York.
He wasn't going to let you down, man.
He was not, and I love him for it. I love you for it, Kristaps. You my boy, I love it.
Dude, he was out for like 18 months, I think. And
it's true, because he played, I think, only like 40 games in that season that he tore his ACL.
Yeah. And more teams are going to look at how good he looks and are like, oh, well, because there was talk last season that he could have come back in the last couple of months of the NBA season. The Mavericks are like, no, we're cool. We would prefer to have a nice draft pick and like you just sit out, like we don't care about this year. So timelines may start changing more towards like the football and baseball timelines of like 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, Kristaps right now, 33rd on the player rater for ESPN. I assume that is going to improve. He's averaging 3 3-pointers a game. As you said, 26 points a game.
His boards will come up too.
Yeah, like he's what Brooke Lopez wishes he was. You know, like
and that's high praise coming from you.
Hey, because even though fuck the Bucks, Brolo is one of my favorite players because he reinvented himself. He's like an older pitcher who figured out how to pitch slow and pitch to contact, and I just really appreciate that kind of dedication and education because you turn into a completely different dude.
Oh yeah.
Like Brooke Lopez used to be a post-up guy.
And now is like the silkiest 3-point jump shot.
Yeah.
Where did this
like,
come from?
The paint is for peasants. I don't go there. Yeah,
I only go there to block shots.
Yeah, I'm a finesse guy. I don't know if you know that. Thanks, Rolo. Yeah, that's my brother. So I love that both Lopez's are there.
It's so wonderful.
Kristaps, I'm with you that I thought that there would be a tougher minute cap, and I wonder if that might start to actually be a reality because, like, yeah, you want people to be excited and him to get into a rhythm, but you also don't want him to get injured.
Right.
So, like maybe like 27 minutes a game would be more appropriate, something like that. Also Maxi Kleber is there. Like there's other dudes that you would like to get minutes. The Mavs look pretty good. I feel like they're 2 trades away from being really good. Right now they're 2-1. They have a +4 point differential, which is who cares. But Luka and Kristaps look like a duo that reminds me of
so good together.
Yeah, it's like LeBron and Wade. It's just like that's fucking crazy. I can't believe you have 2 dudes that are this different and are playing together.
It's just
and that young.
That's the scary thing. That's what's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's what every other team in the NBA should be looking at the Mavericks right now, being like, "Fuck, we had an opportunity to get Kristaps for pennies." For absolute pennies, because James Dolan doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And because he was just like, well, Kristaps said he didn't want to be here, so we're trading him. And 18 hours or however that trade went. Like, and he goes to this
They got
team.
cap space. What do you mean, dude?
They signed all those free agents, man. This is how you build a winning team.
You're goddamn right. The water buffalo knows what it's doing. Okay.
And now the Mavericks have 2 of the top 15 young players in the NBA, and the whole league should be terrified.
Dude, I mean, how many players would you take over Luka?
Not many.
It's pretty tough. And if Kristaps is totally healthy, then how many players would you take over him?
Not many.
Dude, 7'3".
Dude,
It's
oh god.
yeah. And this is so the Mavericks have a great base. Their floor is very high. The problem with this team is that you're going to have to fill it out with dudes that can actually defend.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're there yet. But I would like to say this. Rick Carlisle is the best coach that Kristaps has ever had. And Luka is the best teammate that Kristaps has ever had, with all due respect to every other teammate that Kristaps Porzingis has ever had. But, this is a chance for him to really shine. Like, he has the best foundation he's ever had. So if you're totally healthy and you're in optimum position, then hell yeah, man. Like, maybe you're a top 10 player this year.
Right. Yeah. What's the final thing that you've been most surprised about in the start of the season?
It is the San Antonio Spurs. They are 7th in points per game this year. For context, the Rockets are 8th. They are tied with Indiana. The Spurs are tied with Indiana for the fewest three-pointers made per game. It's 8 per game. And they have the second fewest attempted three-pointers per game. They're 17th in three-point percentage because Celtics, and they're still 7th in points per game. Like, everything I just said is totally mediocre, if not bad, and they're still top 10 in points per game. So there's a couple different. The first two are DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge are just both scoring 20 points per game over it, and they're doing it without shooting from outside.
They're just doing it casually.
All.
They're just like, you know what? Whatever. We'll just score 20 tonight. It's no biggie.
Yeah. Like, last year, the Spurs were 18th in points per game. And they were also 22nd in pace, which is the amount of possessions you have per game on average. This year, they're 8th in pace. They are playing differently. And one of the reasons they're playing differently is because they have a dude named Bryn Forbes, who
sounds like a made-up character.
I mean, like, he is 7+ 3-point attempts per game. That's top 20. Other dudes in the top 20, Ingram, Kristaps, and JJ Redick. Bryn Forbes is top 10 in 3-point percentage as well. And he's basically their starting shooting guard on a team that has also had Manu Ginobili. Like, this team knows how to grow guards. He is part of a foundation along with DeJounte Murray and Derek White, who are doing, like, their wingspan's crazy. They look crazy potentially defensively. Derek White has some really strangely good numbers right now. He's shooting 65.2% from the field on 7.7 field goal attempts per game. Yeah, he's a point guard. He's 6'5". Right. Here's the thing. Like, the Spurs, we always say that they know how to win. And, like, that's the reason why at the end of every season we're like, oh, yeah, well, of course they made the postseason because the Spurs just know how to win. This is what they do, though. They find guys that know how to play efficiently no matter how they do it. So DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge are not out. They're not new NBA players. They are not 3-and-D guys. Like, they take mid-range shots and they drive to the bucket. And the Spurs were like, okay, well, we have you. We are going to use that to our advantage. Everybody else on the team should be a shooter. And they've really done that. They've done it without making a bunch of trades. They've done it without making a bunch of free agent signings. Mm-hmm. They've done it just with development. Like DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Bryn Forbes.
DeJounte Murray. Yeah. No, it's
Like,
this is long been the Spurs MO, and that's why the LaMarcus Aldridge signing was such a big surprise, because they've always been an internal, like, we're just going to draft extremely well and develop players extremely well, and then we're going to keep those guys and we're going to win championships. And obviously Kawhi was an exception just because of the whole injury thing and that whole weird relationship, how that threw a wrench at things. But like, it's not surprising that they are finding homegrown talent. But I agree with you. What's surprising is the fact that in this, what's often considered an annotated offensive structure, right? The shooting the long two, the trying to go for two rather than the more efficient three, that this offense has started the season as the 7th highest scoring team in basketball.
Dude, and just think about if they still had Davis Bertans, who is one of my waiver wire pickups of the week, by the way. So they got rid of Davis Bertans last year. He was one of Pop's favorite players, apparently. They got rid of him. They traded him because they were trying to make room for Marcus Morris. And then Marcus Morris infamously spurned them and decided to sign with the New York Knicks instead. Yeah, I know. I was, yep.
Which is also like Marcus Morris. What you doing? What you doing? Why are you going to a team that has 300 power forwards? Because you're like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm going to be the 15th power forward in the rotation. Fuck yeah.
Dude, they must have told him, like, we'll give you minutes. Like, maybe you're a trade asset, but like, you're going to get touches. Because like, why else would you do that?
Right. There's no other reason.
Sure. So like, Pop's still pissed about that. I would be too, because if Marcus Morris hadn't said that, Davis Bertans would still be on the Spurs, and they'd have another 3-point shooter who, by the way, is 6'10". He is currently on the Wizards. He's taking 6+ 3-point attempts per game. He's making 50% of them. 50%. He is 2.5% owned. Okay.
Perfect segue. Go. Keep talking. We're gonna. Yeah. It's time to talk some fantasy ads. Since this is a fantasy basketball podcast, we figured we'd throw in at least a couple guys who you should be monitoring or even adding off the waiver wire. Natty, you are already in the midst of one, which is questionable leadership and hosting by myself interrupting you to introduce the segment. But anyways, ignore it. Keep going.
I mean, I'm sorry to get so passionate about this, but like, you and I know about David. Like, we liked him a lot. You get
very passionate about when you feel like the general fantasy basketball cognoscenti isn't being appreciative of the players that they should.
Dude, it felt like every time I was watching a Spurs game last year, he was just sinking threes.
And then everyone got excited about Joe Harris, and you're like, no, Joe Harris is great. But you're ignoring Davis Bertans.
Yeah, and I live in Brooklyn. I love Brooklyn Joe. But fuck him, man. Yo, Davis Bertans, dude. Like, let's talk about a guy that stretches the floor for a team that doesn't believe in stretching the floor because they have mid-range. Oh, God, the Spurs are incredible. It sucks they didn't keep him. Anyway, there's absolutely nobody on Washington, really, aside from Bradley Beal. Like, I don't really believe in anybody else. Thomas Bryant, sure, whatever, who cares? But Bertans, if he actually is a sharpshooter, he's going to make the whole rest of the team better. And everybody on Washington is shooting pretty poorly right now, aside from him. I think his shots are going to go up. He's 6th in field goal attempts on DC right now, but he's shooting 50% from deep, so that will go up. He and Bradley Beal seem to be a match made in heaven to me. 2 efficient players on a team where who cares what happens outside of those two and Rui Hachimura. So opportunity, youth, and availability.
What are you going to ask me? Who I like?
Oh, sorry. Yes, absolutely. I'm so passionate and selfish. I really apologize. All I can think about is power forwards shooting threes. Okay, who do you want to add?
So I will speak from experience here because I just added him. In fact, I dropped DeAndre Jordan for him. Tristan Thompson, somehow my team is just the Cleveland Cavaliers. Tristan Thompson has started the season double-digit rebounds and points and gives you a few blocks here and there. And as long as he stays healthy, who else on this Cavs, offense is going to give you? I mean, K-Love is there and is going to get his time, but we know what Tristan Thompson gives you. He gives you boards and he gives you points. And if your team, like me, that was lacking in that, primarily because DeAndre Jordan was not doing that much for me on his 23 minutes a game.
That in points and boards is not a good start to a fantasy basketball season. I'd just like to point that out.
I know. Yeah, it's not great. Well, it's points and boards. Mainly, actually, what it is it's center designations. I just have Rudy, and I need other centers to play when Rudy is not in.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I know he's on your team, and your team's really good. So
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
yes.
right on.
So, anyways,
is Ed Harris on your team for rebounds? Speaking of which,
Joe Harris, yeah. Oh, Ed Harris. Oh no. Let's look at old Ed. Is he available in my league? Ed Harris. But anyway, so I just added Tristan Thompson today because he's been averaging a double-double to start the season. And I was like, I'm sick of you, DeAndre Jordan, giving me nothing. And I am now somehow invested in the Cavaliers front court with Tristan Thompson and Larry Nance Jr. on my team.
But I do think that that's fun. Like, fantasy basketball is supposed to be fun. And I do think that the Cavs have a bunch of young players who are going to be fun. And that team could be fun.
Yeah.
Like if Darius Garland and Colin Sexton figure out how to run together, then that team is going to be super cool, man. And that will make everything else way cooler. Like, we've talked about how they don't really have wings, but they do have bigs. And Larry Nance is super cool. Tristan Thompson, a couple of years ago when LeBron was on the team, was absolutely awesome looking.
He was great last year too. He just was dealing with injuries all year. But yeah, no. And that's the thing too, is that like we both like this vibe of getting players on teams that people just, especially veterans on teams that people feel like are rebuilding and only have youth.
Sure.
It's like those are great guys to go get because they will get the minutes, they will get the production because they know what they're doing. And because their team is perpetually bad or like fighting to keep themselves in games, they have chances to get a lot of usage and a lot of work. And because they're a younger team, there tends to be the pace is quicker. And so I very much like investing, not your entire roster, obviously, but having the occasional like veteran on a young rebuilding team gets you a little more usage than maybe the veteran on like a stable edge fringe contender team.
Absolutely, because like 3 months into the fantasy season, when in real life everyone's talking about that player getting traded to a contender, then their ownership will go up.
Right.
So those are the exact sort of players that you invest in so that you're hoping for an optimal season and then a trade to get an asset.
Yep. Do you have anyone else who people should be targeting off waivers?
I have to mention this. When I was watching my beloved Pistons play the Indiana Pacers, the only team that they've beaten in the NBA season so far. They've beaten them twice, but they've lost everybody else. TJ Warren had 5 steals against the Pistons the other night, and that made me look at his numbers. He also seemed to be like the go-to scorer by default later in the game. He averaged 18 and 4 last year when he was playing for Phoenix.
TJ Warren was sneaky good last year. I had him on my team for a hot sec. And I like that call a lot.
18 and 4 was the same as Bojan Bogdanovic last year. Only 41 players in the NBA did that. And last year, Bojan was top 60 in ESPN Basic. Now, TJ Warren missed like maybe half the season. Like he hasn't played a full season. He's had some injuries and has been sitting out. But Bojan Bogdanovic right now is playing on Utah, and there are other better players on that team than him. The reason he got so much usage last year in Indianapolis was because Victor Oladipo went out, and then all of a sudden Bojan was the go-to scorer. So right now, Bojan is 83.5% owned. TJ Warren, with similar numbers, is 34% owned. Like
TJ Warren last year, 42% from 3, and he gave you 3 stocks. This year, he's already giving you 3 stocks.
Dude, he's first in field goal attempts on the Pacers this year.
Oh, my God.
He's taking all the shots.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, Malcolm Brogdon is averaging 10-plus assists, I think. So, like, he's trying to distribute. But, like, TJ Warren is the guy that is the heir apparent to Boyan because all the numbers are the same and they're feeding him that way, I think his ownership and value is going to increase a lot.
Yeah, that's a great call. I like that a lot. Before we go, Natty, fave thing of the week. What do you got?
I have two things. One thing is Piston centric. Luke Kennard looks absolutely incredible. He looks like he's the long distance gunner that everybody wanted him to be when Detroit drafted him. He's 19% owned right now. You should check him out if you need someone on your team. And the other one is RJ Barrett. Like he looks like the real deal and a rookie of the year candidate. I'm very, very, everything else about the Knicks is stupid, but RJ Barrett is not.
Well, good for the Knicks for getting something right.
It had to happen by accident, right? Like,
yeah, they had to stumble into the correct thing.
Julius Randle is good too. Mitchell
I
Robinson
like
too.
Julius Randle a lot. Yeah, I guess Mitchell Robertson, but it's also
Dude,
like, why do you need 7 other bigs to back those guys up?
I agree that like that team. I have a lot of complaints, and now and Dennis doesn't look good. Anyway, what? How about you? What's your favorite thing?
Favorite thing of the week? It has to be the Raptors bringing out their throwback jerseys.
Nice,
because those things are just some of the greatest basketball jerseys I think that have ever been created. They rival. I have a collection of old school NBA jerseys, and the Raptors. I have an old Tracy McGrady with the old school purple Raptors.
Yeah, T-Mac.
And I have an Allen Iverson of the old Rainbow Nuggets one.
Oh my God! Fuck you! Really, give it to me.
It's so pretty. Those are two. Those are like.
They're great.
Those are probably my 2 favorite retro and maybe even just like standalone NBA jerseys ever. The Rainbow Nuggets and then the purple massive Velociraptor jerseys, and they looked so good on this team that a part of me is just like, why not make these your everyday jersey?
Sure. Yo, they the 3-1 Raptors, by the way, they look fucking great.
Why, who am I right?
Yeah, exactly. Also, why the fuck did Denver ever stop wearing the rainbow jersey? Like, what's wrong with them?
I don't know. The rainbow jerseys are so gorgeous.
They're so cool. What happened?
I do like their city jerseys, though. I will say the mile high with the kind of cross pickaxe. I like that look. But yeah, goddamn, the Rainbow Mountain was just so beautiful.
Dude, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
And give me an over-under of years for how long it takes Denver to put a marijuana leaf on the Nuggets. Like, they just wear it once. You know? Because it's like, yo, let's support local business.
Yeah, I think they have to do that. Besides, and not only are you supporting local business, you're also supporting what has to be the number one pastime for your best player in the NBA.
So you think that Jokic because I thought of him as a beer guy. Are we talking about Jokic or are we talking about both? Else?
Oh, no, definitely talking about Jokic.
True.
You could be both. Okay. I think that's how Jokic gets so visionary with his passes and seeing the full court. I think he tokes up pregame and then gets drunk postgame.
It would be funny if he was totally straight edge.
Which wouldn't surprise me also either. He listens to this podcast and he's scandalized. He's like, how dare they think that I partake in the drugs?
That is absolutely what Joker sounds like, for sure.
I am just nailing my impressions tonight.
You really are. It's too bad that you don't have a blunt lit so you could just like smoke it afterwards.
Just exhale.
Like, indeed.
Exhale into the voice. Yeah, anytime I start nailing impressions, that means it's time to wrap things up. So,
wait, one more thing. Sorry.
Yes.
I just wanted to say there is a lowest ownership emergency in the top 20 in ESPN basic player rating right now. OG Anunoby is 19% owned. Speaking of the Raptors, he's a top 20 player in ESPN basic right now. Like, he should be at least 30%.
What more
owned.
Do you need to know?
Yeah. Like, everybody go out there. He gets minutes. He doesn't look fancy, but he gets you what you want.
Yeah.
Go get OG. Go Raptors.
And it's the offense is him and Pascal. That's the team. You know they're not touching. Neither of those guys are getting traded when eventually the rebuild happens, and that's the guys that they're going to highlight.
Dude,
so.
yeah. And in the meantime, you have Kyle Lowry and you have Fred VanVleet. Like everybody
playing out of his mind.
Yeah, all these dudes know how to play with each other. And I think that's counting for a lot early on. They're doing well. The Raptors, shit, man. Like, speaking of people who maybe had them too low, yeah,
you're gonna look silly when they're a top 5 team.
And hopefully they wear their throwback jerseys all throughout the year.
Just the whole year. Just the whole year. Just do it. You can do it, you guys.
Dinosaurs are cool.
Dinosaurs are fucking dope. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast everywhere you can get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, whole 9 yards. Leave us a review. Fake Teams podcast channel. That's what we are under. You can follow us on Twitter as well at The Long 2 Podcast. Hit us up with your questions, your thoughts, your whatevers. We love to interact and respond to you. We'll be back next week. Natty, until then, have a good week.
2 whole weeks of games. Just think about all the cool
bask in its glory and all of the stats that we'll be able to talk about, and how all of these surprises that we just spent an hour talking about will be null and void.
I don't know, man. I think Kristaps is going to be one of our boyfriends all year.
Yeah, baby. Give me that Kristaps.
Yeah. Have a good week, man. Thanks.